What I'm doing today is I'm going to be pouring glaze over this piece. Oftentimes spraying doesn't seem to work because maybe it's too big for your spray booth, or it's not exactly the technique that you want to use for the final glaze. And dipping, it's just too big to dip. You'd have to have 20 gallons to dip that piece. So I'm going to pour 3 different glazes over this piece, and I'll show you how I wipe it off in between. And I've made up these, you can make these out of wooden dowels and some wood. I just happen to have some of these electrical components, and I just taped them all together. So I'm going to do one dip or one pour. I'm going to let it set a little bit, let it dry up, because I want to have different thicknesses in this particular glaze, because this is one of my crystalline glazes that works well in all varying thicknesses. So as it dries out, I'm going to go ahead and pour some more. And I'm doing about half the bowl. Since it's a crystalline glaze, it's gonna flow. So I'm not worried about the highs and lows here. They will all flow together, although ultimately they will give a look that'll be different than a spray or a dip, which is always pretty even. Because crystalline glazes don't have a lot of clay in them, they settle out pretty rapidly. So in this case, I'm gonna mix this. I'm going to dip a cup in there and get ready to pour the second one. And I'll go to a new container so I don't mix the 2 glazes together. And when I overlay this glaze with that glaze, I know that I get a whole different kind of crystal. So sometimes it looks good to just do a couple of little overlays, like maybe a little bit over here. And you'll experiment and find out what works best for you. So when I'm done, I'm going to show you how I use a micrometer to actually test the thickness. I've done this so many times I kind of know already how thick I need it and how much pouring I need to do, but I just want to show you how I test it. And I pour right up to the rim so I can get this all glazed. And then if it goes over, as you saw, I just wipe it off. This is the micrometer that I use. You zero it out by putting it on something flat. You run this to 0. Okay, so we have it at 0. What I'm looking for is 20 thousandths to 30 thousandths of an inch. Even if it goes to 40, it's not a big deal because that's all flowing. It's going to end up at the bottom of the pot, but 20 to 30 thousandths. So there I'm right at about 20 thousandths. So I'm gonna pour a little bit more glaze on this so I can make sure that I get at least 20 to 30 on it. Not as concerned about the bottom because that's all going to flow down there anyway. we'll have plenty of glaze down there. Now I notice that I have these little bubbles coming up, and that's always an indicator when I spray that I've got enough glaze on there. So when I see that, I know that I'm good to go. And I will put the micrometer on there and show you. Okay. So I'm at about 25 right now, and that's about where I'd like to be with this one. I'm going to go ahead and put more glaze over here, the same glaze. I'll move it over to that bucket, and we should be one more pour away from finishing it. I always like to put a mixture of my crystalline glaze and iron around the top, so when it flips over, that iron flows down and causes the crystals to change a little bit towards a reddish color. One of the things I do is I get these 5-gallon buckets from wherever, and then there's a company, and you can find them online, or you can find them at your HD store or other hardware store. This piece here snaps onto the top of the bucket, and then it comes with this lid, which makes it real easy just to screw it on. The other ones that you have to wrench off every time were really a pain in the neck. So this is what I do, and it works well. I'm going to check the thickness on this glaze right now. And I'm at about 15 to 18 thousandths. So I'm going to pour another pour over this whiter glaze so that I can get that thickness up there. And again, I'll overlap. You can see those little bubbles forming. And that's telling me that it's on thick enough. So this is one I did a while ago. Again, glazed upside down, similar to the demo I just did. And you can see how the iron comes down and changes the look, and the overlaps change the look. And the crystals here are pretty massive in this area. So you can see the transition between the two glazes. And then a third glaze that I did on this one, which is a blue. And I did, likewise, I did on this piece here. So this was, I did this one by pouring, and I did this with an engobe, a red engobe underneath to get this look. And you can see where it got thick and thin and so on, and it gives a nice appearance.